Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to AtoZrunning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 48 of the AtoZrunning podcast. I'm Andy.
With Zach.
And first of all, drop everything you're doing and go to AtoZrunning.com and click follow.
Follow in the top right corner.
Because
and if
it's
you're on a
free.
mobile thing like a phone, it's the 3-line menu thing. And get engaged in the conversation with us, like posting comments on stuff, replying or responding in social media, and reviewing stuff like that. And if you do, we might just talk about the things that you have to say too, like this comment from Anne.
Anne commented on our post about Cindy O'Feely's episode. I think as distance runners need to take tips from sprinters more often. We may never be as fast as them, but we can get a lot faster than we are now if we focus on it a little more.
Yeah, I think one of the big takeaways every time I talk to an athlete of another focus area, another expertise, is that just because you don't do the exact same thing I do doesn't mean I can't learn from the things that you do. And so sometimes it's explicitly like, fast people can help teach us how to be faster people. And sometimes it's just learning about the kinds of things people do that can, I can kind of reciprocate that. And so I totally agree. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. And I like the word that she used, focus. Because I think
nice.
that's kind of encompassed a lot of the episode last week. We need to focus a little bit more so we're ready to go at that start line.
So the big takeaway here is if you didn't listen to last week's episode, you need to, because what we try to do is not just talk about with Cindy how to be faster, but also where that fits in your training as a distance runner, if you are in fact a distance runner. So go listen to that and you'll get more of that practicalness from it. Also, bonus comment here. Pete, we heard you. Yes, we do need to eat more brownies. We all probably should benefit from eating more chocolate triple fudge brownies.
For those of you that are just joining us, the reason that we're even mentioning this is because we used to talk about the brownies we were eating like every week.
That's because we were eating brownies every week. What happened? What happened?
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Pete. Now we'll have more motivation to make brownies more often.
That's something that brings us joy, and the topic for today's conversation is joy.
That was an interesting transition. Joy from brownies and joy in your running. So we have Brittany Charboneau on to talk about a myriad of ways that you can enjoy running for the sake of the running, but also other kinds of things you can do in and around and infusing in the running. It's a wonderful conversation.
And you're going to come away with like actual ideas. It's not just like out there joy. It's real things that she is doing, things that we can take away, things that we can try for ourselves to be a more joyful runner.
So let's talk about the world of running for a minute, and then we'll get back to that.
I had mentioned last week that we are doing a giveaway for some Noon tablets as well as an AtoZrunning shirt. Thank you to the few of you who have entered. We are giving another week for those entries to come in, so make sure you rate and subscribe either on Apple Podcasts or you can find us on Facebook and rate and review us there.
First up in the world of running today, Faith Chepngetich will be attempting the 1,000-meter world record this coming weekend.
Yes, on September 4th, the reigning 1,500-meter Olympic champion, Faith, will take another shot at the 1,000 world record, where she did attempt before, and she was so very close. She's going to be going for it again.
Yeah, we did mention before. She missed it by 17 hundredths. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I think last time I said just under 2 hundredths or just under 20 hundredths or
17 hundredths of a second.
Excellent. So clearly she's fit enough to do it. The question is, will the stars align just right to inch under that record?
At the very same meet, which is the AG Memorial Van Damme Diamond League meeting in Brussels, there will be a 1-hour world record attempt.
So this one's uncommon. The 1 hour, so any of the time records, meaning how far can you run for this amount of time as opposed to how fast can you run this distance. That's the difference in these kinds of records. They're not super common. People don't make the attempts very often, But usually when they do, it's like whoever the legendary runners are in our times, those tend to be the people who will make these attempts.
So Bridget Koskay is going to make her track debut for this, okay? So she has never raced on the track at a Diamond League event ever in her lifetime, although she is one of the best runners of our time based on her marathon, which is 2:14:04.
And that's a world record.
That's a world record.
And her half marathon,
which is 64:28.
Also a world record.
So she is going to be attempting this event along with Sifan Hassan, who you may know because she is the world record holder for the 5K race and the mile.
On the road.
And that was in 2019, so not too long ago. And Koskay's were also done very recently as well. So they're both very strong runners in the hunt for this world record hour time.
Now, of course, you're going to see the two distances that they specialize in, and you're going to say, well, this is definitely Bridget's wheelhouse, not Sifan Hassan's, as far as their expertises go. And that's true. That is true. For example, the pace that they would need to run to break the previous world record would be about 5:12 mile pace. Well, Bridget Koskay ran faster than that for a full marathon. So it shouldn't be hard for her to do this for 1 hour. Sifan Hassan, she's clearly fast. She can handle the pace too, but the question remains then, which of the two of them can do it better?
And will it be tactical?
No.
You don't think so?
Nope. It's a world record attempt. It's going to go out on the pace they need to run, and they're going to stay on the pace they need to run the entire time.
But then would that lend toward Sifan Hassan's strength, being a kicker?
Unless Bridget Koskay starts accelerating.
This could get interesting, folks.
All right, so on the men's side, the same attempt is going to happen. This time it will be Mo Farah with his training partner, Bashir Abdi.
And they will be going for that 1 hour record, which will have to be under 4:34 pace.
Under 4:34 mile pace, which I should say again, both of them have done that for a half marathon, so they can handle this effort. Mo Farah has a little bit faster half marathon PR than Bashir, his training partner. Although most lately, Bashir has been doing a little bit more around these kinds of things. I think Mo Farah actually was hurt in the spring, but coming back from that, if he's strong and healthy, he can definitely handle it.
So will this be different on the track? Because these other half marathon, like longer distance events, have been on the road. Will that play a part in this, Zach?
The debate is out as to whether that matters for the runners at this level.
All right. Well, the next step is the U.S. Road Mile Championships, which has occurred. This has happened already. And Sam Prakel from Adidas, he ran 3:58 for the winning time there. And the women, Emily Lipari, also Adidas, ran 4:29.
So a good Adidas showing.
Yeah.
And Joe Klecker from the On Club was in the race too. He was 3/4 of a second behind for third place, so not bad there.
Speaking of On running, Oliver Hoare, he won the mile at South Carolina Track Fest. And he didn't just win it, he crushed it. He won by 5 seconds, and he ran 3:53.
Nice. So he ran 3:34 in the 1500 the other day, which is somewhere around a 3:51-ish equivalent mile. But of course, he's running these races and he's having to push the effort himself, like from the front. And you see that when you win by 5 seconds. That's not easy to do. So a 3:53 mile from the front, that's good stuff. So next week, we're going to be able to tell you the results from those world record attempts and see who got it, if they got it, and how fastly they got it. Stay tuned next time.
This week's guest is Brittany Charboneau. She is also known as the funny runner because she brings a smile to people's faces. She studied in comedy, and she is, in fact, a funny runner. She's also a pro trail runner, and she was 13th at the Olympic trials in a time of 2:33:14. That was her PR. She PR'd on that Atlanta course, which is amazing. She's also a coach, and there's so much more that we could share with you about Brittany. So make sure you hop on over to AtoZrunning.com/episode 48 to read more about Brittany. But let's get to that interview. Hi, Brittany. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
I am just amazed by you because your most recent feat was absolutely incredible. We just gave our listeners the lowdown of your running history. So let's just start right now, off the bat, talking about trail running and finding joy in trail running.
Yeah, I cannot believe it. I'm like fairly new into trail running, and you guys, it is something else. I never thought I would love it and find as much joy in trail running as I do. I'm a native Coloradoan, and I had this really negative stigma against trail running and trail runners and nature and the whole thing. I'd never really taken advantage of our Colorado mountains until recently, and just am soaking it up. Like absolutely just loving it. So yeah, it's wild.
So we should say congratulations because even though our listeners may have heard last week where we talked about your recap, your race recap, you just won the Pikes Ascent and Marathon, correct?
Yes, I won the Pikes Peak Marathon here in Colorado. So I full marathon up. We had literally just briefed it, but it was up and down a 14er, which is a 14,000-foot mountain, which again, I didn't even know what that was until recently. So looking back, I cannot believe I did that.
Wow. So not only did you do that, you did it quite quickly. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but 4:20 something was your total time?
Yeah, 4:25, which is crazy because my road marathons are 2 hours faster. So to me, like, I think that's something I've had to figure out is mentally, how do you get past when your road marathon is like 2:30 and you are out there for 4+ hours over, doing all these climbs, just making that switch in your brain that it's the same distance, but totally different scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a really important thing, Brittany, too, because you have to prepare for a different kind of run. You're not running hard for 2.5 hours. You're running a little bit different kind of effort for twice the amount of time almost. So I'm curious because a large part of our focus here is how we make running and distance running a fun experience. How do you enjoy 4.5 hours running on mountains? Do you enjoy that?
Yes. Somehow I enjoy every minute of it. So the beauty, I think, is that, on trail, you cannot look, really, you can't look at your time and think anything of it because it doesn't mean anything. So I think that's out the window. You're distracted with you're having to stay so present because you're distracted with all of those rocks and boulders and switchbacks and worrying if mountain lions are hiding and lurking in the bushes, because I do worry about that. And then for me, because I am out there for so long, I always have a podcast or music going in my pack. So I have my phone in my pack and the microphone is pointed upwards at me so I can hear it. And I also feel like that's also scaring away animals.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that extra noise, but that helps keep me distracted over those 4+ hours that you're out there with wilderness.
I'd love to hear more about your race this past weekend. Tell us more about it because you had some fun, interesting, bizarre things happen.
Yeah. So I had signed up for the Pikes Peak Marathon just maybe a month before. So I just decided, I honestly thought I'd be prepping for fall marathoning on the road right now. So, none of this was in my plans. And I had heard about this Pikes Peak Marathon. We know about Pikes Peak as Coloradoans, but I'd never even been there. And it's an hour and a half, 2 hours from me in Denver. And so, I decided I was going to sign up and just put my trail training to the test. Let's see what I can do and see where I'm at. And so did the race. And the night before, so we decided that I was going to brand my shorts that had like our logo on them, but we were going to use our Cricut and just iron it on. And so we were doing that. This is my husband and my coach and her husband, and we're in our hotel room, and like everything was going swimmingly according to the plan. And I look over and smoke and smell from this iron, and my husband's face is just white, and he's just not knowing what to do. And I look over, and there's pink stuck to the iron, and there's a giant hole in my shorts. He's like, no. I literally just painted my nails. So I desperately wanted to match. I really wanted to wear this outfit. I really wanted to wear those shorts. I love wearing bright colors and I love bringing pink to the trails. And so that happened. And I was like, whatever, I'm still going to wear them. Like, I'm wearing these melted shorts. And so that was how I kicked off the run, was in these melted shorts. But it was amazing. It was just kind of one of those reminders of like, just stay present, like weird things are going to happen, just go with it. And yeah, it was crazy. It was just so fun. I honestly am just, as I'm talking about it, I'm like, it was just amazing. And it's incredible how quickly 4.5 hours goes by when you're, out on a trail like that.
Mm-hmm.
Running from mountain lions and dodging boulders.
Luckily, none were to be had. Just melty.
Or you outran them. Maybe just outran it all.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's actually more the strategy. I made a piece of art recently that I was, because we keep joking about this fear of these mountain lions that I have, and I feel like if I run fast enough, they don't want to catch me. So I envision mountain lions like in street or state patrol trooper outfits, and they've got their like radar guns and they're zooming. And if I go fast enough by, they'll deem me too fast for food. So that's how I trick myself. And that's why I feel like I go fast, is so mountain lions won't want to try and catch me.
I love that art. I love all of your art, but I'll make sure I link to that. It will be at AtoZrunning.com/episode 48. It's so cool, you guys. The art that she does. This is one way that Brittany brings joy to the sport of running. So tell us a little bit more about your art.
Yeah. And let's put this art in air quotes. So this is a very loose, broad term of art. So my running coach is she went to Carnegie Mellon. She actually has an art degree. She's got a background in art. And so she actually helps me with my quote unquote art. But basically I do digital and collage art. And so what we started last year so I wasn't able to run the London Marathon last spring because I had a back injury. And so that led to me running trails. She convinced me to run on trails because she was like, you have to get on softer surfaces. And so I kind of started to dabble last year. And within that same thing, there was just so many things that we realized needed to shift in my training. And one of the big pieces was, I don't want to look back on my running career and not have enjoyed it. Like, I don't want to look back and think, I really wish I would have had more fun with this incredible opportunity. So I asked her if we could start building in weekly themes for my running. So that's what we've been doing for, over the past year and a half, is she gives me a theme and then I build it into my training throughout the week. And then on my off days, Mondays are my off days, and it's my mandatory creative day. And I make art on these mandatory creative days. And I usually incorporate something with how the training went that week, or I've lately leading up to trials, I had people. And so I thought it would be really cool to, at the end of my trials training, have all of us on the starting line in the same photo of all of these people that I had created, of what they would look like if they were running. So the first week was Julia Child. So what would Julia Child look like running? And of course she's holding a huge stick of butter and she's in a sports bra, but it's like she's got her little apron hanging from the side. And then I had Dolly Parton, and Dolly Parton's pouring a cup of ambition over her head. I had The Rock one week, and he was giving Oprah a piggyback ride. So it's this hodgepodge of images and collage that I make. I just Photoshop it all, but it's just so fun. And it's so fun to look back, and there's pieces. Every time I look at my art, I think about, oh, right, I remember this week, and I'll add these little tiny pieces in there that just maybe only mean something to me, but I remember something about that week's training or whatever it is. And we just moved into our new house, and I'm in my art room right now, and I'm hoping to put all of my pieces or my favorite pieces on our wall, and just it's just a cool way to just recap all of your hard work and help you stay present during training. Because, marathon training is months long and it can be grueling, but I wanted to keep it fun and find a way to recap how my weeks of training have been and look back and make it fun and silly with all these people running together that never would actually probably run together.
So some people have a training log. Brittany has an art collection.
Yeah.
That's epic.
Thanks.
So tell me, do you think, I'm just kind of springing this one on you,
Cool.
the sports psychology of that, like processing and using art, do you think that that could be helpful to a lot of runners?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, chunk everything down, right? Like if we've got 3 to 4 months training for a marathon, that's actually like a really long time. And that's every single day. But if you can break it down into just that 1 week and then just that one day, and how are you going to focus on just that one day to add that one piece to your artwork? And then I think too, the reason I like it also is that it's the reason I like collage especially is you're adding these pieces that don't mean anything in the one moment, but you put them all together and it's this amazing image, right? So it's this one run that or this one rep, or this one interval, or whatever it is. And it may not seem like it's doing anything. Like, why do I need to run this 800 hard in the grand scheme of my marathon training? And because it's making this beautiful picture, right? Or even on this other hand, it's thinking about, like, I love Bob Ross so much. And it's like having those Bob Ross moments where everything isn't going to go according to plan. And what you think your image is going to look like, 99% of the time, it's not actually going to look like that. And so I think thinking about your running in terms of art, or in whatever art that could be, I mean, that's performance art. That's where my comedy background comes in too, is those moments that it's just trusting the process and trusting that something amazing is going to come out, that it's probably going to be 40 times better than you could have envisioned from the start. So I think, yeah, for me, at least, there's been those pieces, and it's just been really fun to incorporate all of that into the journey.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's a compelling reflection on one avenue for that concept. You were just describing it. That concept of seeing a piece as a part of the whole, and what piece does that have in the whole. And we talk about that all the time with training. Sound quality training means that you can see where each of the pieces fit and why they fit together well. But in this sense, it also helps to round out the human experience of what you're doing too. That's really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's so important. And I think it's pieces that we miss sometimes too, So yeah, it's been a huge part for me. That's just helped me so much.
And so one of those pieces is joy. And that's one of the reasons we're talking to you today. And I just loved what you did at the Olympic trials. Everyone knows because I've told them already, but you were 13th at the Olympic trials and you ran so fast. It was a 2:33. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2:33.14
on that course.
On that course, which now I'm like, oh, that girl she was going up those like mountains. I mean, they weren't mountains to you, but the rest of us.
Oh, well,
the rest of us felt that way.
But yeah, certainly. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So you put on your watch. You covered your watch. Tell us about your journey to joy in the Olympic trials.
Yeah, I had covered my watch at trials, and it was a piece of sprinkled, like it was duct tape, but it was pink sprinkles, and I put "Surrender to Joy" over it. And the reason I had done that, so leading up to trials, I've gone through different phases where I'm really not running my journey. I'm not painting my picture. I've had different moments of that. My first foray into that was probably in 2018 when I ran the New York Marathon. That was my first world major as an elite, and I was leading that race, and it was horrendously terrifying. It was amazing, but terrifying, but I let go of my race, and I didn't have a good run, and it was awful. For how I wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. And then again, I was leading into London, and I was pushing so hard and wanting to run someone else's training. And, that's where we had to shift. And then I went into the Marine Corps Marathon and had amazing training leading into Marine Corps. And I felt like I mentally kind of let that drop more than I wanted to during that race. And so leading into trials, I just thought, this could be my one and only opportunity to run the Olympic trials. And how do I want it to go, and what experience do I want to have and to protect? Because it's mine, right? And there was 400 of us out of the millions of runners. Like, that's unbelievable. And so I just didn't want that to go. I didn't want to miss it. And so I just, leading up to it, I trained so hard. I was so prepared. The course was, of course, crazy hard, but I was so ready for it. I mean, I was training on hills like a mad woman because I knew I wanted to be just as prepared as I could. I had been sitting on the same exact PR. I missed my PR in New York by 10 seconds. And I had been sitting on that PR for like 2 years. And so I was like, I don't care what course it is, I am going to PR. But I also knew that I don't want to be stressing about time. If I have done all the work, I want to let it go and let it be and just tune into how I'm feeling in the moment. And I want to enjoy every second of it because it's going to go by like that. And it is something to be savored. And it is something that could be once in a lifetime. I mean, I certainly hope I'm back for more trials, but it was just one of those pieces that I had to come back to during training. And certainly on that day, I love running so much, and that's all that matters. I, of course, am shooting to make the team, but if it doesn't happen this year, did I enjoy it? Then that's my A goal. B goal is, and if I achieve my A goal, which is just being present and enjoying every second of it, then my results are going to come. And I PR'd that day, and I got a way higher place than I probably would have expected or let myself run had I been stressing about time or the results or things like that. So yeah, it was, just surrender to joy. It was so good.
I saw so many pictures of you smiling too. Like you were smiling the whole way. You looked like you were having fun.
I was having fun, and it was so genuine. There were so many moments that it was, I remember when we first came around the first corner, and it was maybe mile 2 or 3 when you really get the big crowd. And it was this deafening wall of, it was so loud. And I saw my family, and I saw the group of people that there were so many of them there to cheer me on. And I saw them, and I just was like, yeah, we're doing it. I couldn't believe it. And then that moment, and then through the very end, coming through when, we're watching the 800, 400, 200 countdown as you're headed into Olympic Park. And just again, thinking I just did this. I've been running pro for 3 years. I never would have in a million years believed that I could be here. And here I am. And it was so cool. Yeah.
That is so cool. So joy in suffering, because you're still suffering, right? I mean, it's hard. Running is hard work.
Yeah, you're making me think about the fact that I think for all of us, there's certain elements of running, even if I love the sport, I love doing it, I enjoy everything in my mind, there's elements of that I kind of just feel like I have to suffer through to get to the things or to be able to do the things that I enjoy. And as I talk with other runners, for some, it's like, I really like the long, easy runs in the countryside and I can just kind of zone out for a couple hours. And for others, it's like, I love the hard, fast intervals, but the long stuff, I just have to suffer through it. And for some, it's like, I love the race, I got to suffer through the training. For others, it's like the race is a ton of pressure, but I really enjoy training. So I'm curious first, do you have elements in the experience that are more and less naturally enjoyable for you?
Well, I'll tell you the ones, as you're talking about this, I'm like, oh man, the tempo runs for me have always been this just mental hurdle. Those are the ones that I seriously have struggled through for years, just that really uncomfortable tempo for that extended period of time. It's really challenging for me. So those I have to play games with myself on those. So I set I'll set different goals on those. So if I have a 30-minute tempo, for example, I'll figure out how to chunk it down into maybe 10-minute chunks in my head, and I'll assign a character to them, and I'll try to channel a different character. I've used superheroes that I've invented. I use the presidents a lot, or a mantra or something that I can just attach to break it down. Or I'll set goals of, my goal today is to be in the flow of this run. And even if my time isn't amazingly on that tempo, if I got in the flow like a fish, I remember specifically one week, it was fish for some reason was my theme. And I was like, just, if you can walk away from this run and you were in the flow like a fish, then that's a win. So it's sometimes tricking myself, but yeah. And then there's other runs that, I really enjoy some of the speed days, like the shorter tempo or shorter interval days. I love hills, obviously. But yeah, so I kind of enjoy it all. But even on those hard tempo days, I still enjoy it. And I still, if I have a great day, then looking back. I try to think about the feeling that I want to have looking back afterwards. So if I know that I got that tempo that day, I try to think about how do I want to feel at the end of it. And so I try to like think about that as I'm going into the run. So that way it's a little bit more manageable, or I'm tricking myself, or I'm making it a game and making it fun and playful versus this big daunting task that I have to do. Because if I have to do it, I don't want to.
That's really profound, though, in the sense of like, you know, we always talk about in sports psychology trying to put yourself in a good state of mind and an optimistic state of mind. And so then mantras and all those kinds of things. But part of it too is you want to put yourself in a state of mind that is fun, that is enjoyable. And so that idea of like, you know, role casting yourself while you're doing the run itself and like all of that, those are great little tricks that can have huge impact. I love that.
Thanks. It's really fun. Like I remember one specific tempo workout that I was creating these superhero characters and I didn't know what they were going to be. So it was fun to be in the moment and letting them come to life and channeling them and just thinking like, I know what their color is going to be. And so I'm going to start with that. And I start with that energy and then start to envision like, oh, I can totally see rainbow shooting off of my shoes behind me as I take really fast steps. And like this character is like super mentally tough. And when any negative thought comes in, they superhero punch it out. And then it just becomes a game and you're distracted. And then I also knew after that specific run, I knew I was going to be creating a piece of art after. So I really wanted to try and get as detailed as I could in the moment. So that way I'd have something cool to create afterwards. But it's all just these games because it is fun. But you have to sometimes trick yourself into believing that it is in the moment.
Yeah, well, we don't want to be the kinds of athletes who are everything is very serious and heavy all the time, because that almost always leads to burnout at some point in the process for people. So it's good to lighten it up like that. That's great.
I think that was one thing I wanted as an elite runner. I wanted to show that you can still have fun with it. Like I work really hard, but I still enjoy every second. And I think that that's where I thought I saw when I was watching other elites, when I started to run elite, I was watching these other runners that I just thought I have to be that intense. Like everything looks intense and it looked just, and I thought that that's what it was, that if you're a pro athlete, that's what it is. And I was just like, well, if that's what it is, I don't want that. And I'm going to try to do it my way because I want to enjoy it. And I think I'm, hopefully finding a good balance of both is that I can work really hard, but play at the same time. And that's kind of what I try to bring to this sport.
I absolutely love it. And if you're not quite as creative as Brittany, because she is like the creative mastermind, you can follow her. We'll give you all the information. But I want to tell you right now, if you're in a spot that you can follow at Funny Runner 26.2, and she has all of these pieces of art, some great ideas for bringing joy to your runs and taking yourself out of yourself for a minute, right? So I want to talk about the pennies thing. Tell us more about the pennies.
Okay, so we're on this whole kick of, how to stay distracted and how to stay present. It's funny, it's staying distracted, but also staying really present on the run. So for whatever reason, for years, I've just loved finding change and finding pennies. Like this is pre-running the whole thing. I've just loved finding pennies because I feel like, well, it's free money on the ground. Why would no one want that? So I have this thing on my runs where I collect pennies while I'm running. And so people always ask how I do it on my workout days. Like, do I stop for them? The answer is yes, because a penny is more important than my workout. And I also think too, like it'll take me 3 seconds to like quickly grab that penny off of the ground. I'll happily make that up in effort on my workout. So yes, I pick them up on my workouts. The only exception that I don't pick up pennies is on race day. In fact, at trials, on the backside of trials, so trials was 3 loops around Atlanta. The backside, it was a little bit quieter, a little bit less crowds. And I distinctly remember this one shiny penny, and I passed it every single time. And on the 3rd lap, I knew I was obviously not in top 10 position or anywhere, top 3, anything like that. And I was seriously contemplating picking it up. But then I think Sarah Sellers and I were right together. And I was like, no, just just keep running. So that, and then I thought about that penny days later, the next day, and I was like, should I go back and get it? But I didn't. But for me, my pennies are my little sources of joy. I call them my pennies from heaven, and they're my signs to me that I'm on the right path. So oftentimes I find them and it just sparks joy in my day, or I just get that like, all right, I love finding pennies moment. But other times I'll catch myself, whatever I'm thinking about in that moment. A lot of times I like to just dream on my runs and I'll find a penny. And that to me is like, what was I just thinking about in that moment? That's your affirmation that, yep, you're on the right path, or whatever you're thinking about, you're on the right path. So I pick up pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, whatever it is. So I also, on my easy days, I like to go out and I call it street sweeping. And so I like to just go wander I'll try to run new places because I feel like then I haven't street swept that area yet. So I'll just go and I know where all the hot spots are. I know where there's pennies by parking meters, or if you go early enough in the morning, you can hit some drive-through parking lots. Car washes are a jackpot. So I just like to go see how much I can collect, and then I tally it after every run. I have a framed piece of paper that I tally all my change specifically for my runs, that I can watch it all add up. So it's all these things that I do that I like to watch them add up and see oh, right, this one penny doesn't mean anything, but over time I've collected 600 this year, so it's these little tiny things that it's all about the little moments, guys. It sounds crazy now that I talk about it. And it's a really gross, dirty habit sometimes, but I love it.
Yeah, we're not going to comment about loose change and germs and things. We're just not going to go there.
Yeah, right during the pandemic. Yeah.
So tell us about the funny runner.
Yeah, so I invented the funny runner. So I quit my corporate job 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago this week, actually, because I knew I wanted to run and do comedy full time. And mind you, at this time, I had no grounds to be doing that. I had won a local race and my time was 2:52, and top marathon runners in the country are running sub 2:30. But I was like, 2:52, that's really good. I could quit my job. And then on the exact same side, I had not won this local improv show. I didn't win it. And I was like, yeah, no, that's good. I'm ready to go full time. Let's do this. And I don't know, looking back, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I quit my corporate job, and I thought, I don't know what to say when people ask what I do for a living, because I do this weird combination of both, and it doesn't exist to my knowledge. I don't know anybody else that does this comedy and running thing, and how am I going to set myself apart? So I decided to call myself the funny runner. And anytime people asked what I did for a living, I was like, oh, I'm the funny runner. And then it kind of sparked a conversation. And it also was just trying to build in this belief factor in myself that this was a real thing, and that I could pursue this weird life this journey that I was on.
So you had joy even then. You are optimistic and joyful, and you set your mind to things and you go after them. So what is next for you, Brittany?
Yeah, so many things. It's fun looking back and talking about it because it's only been 3 years, but I've just set these goals, and now I'm starting to trust it. Now I'm starting to trust my track record in my work ethic. I'm starting to trust myself, and I'm starting to take my own ceiling off. I think for so long, honestly, when I quit my job and was the funny runner, my goal was to qualify for trials. That's it. Because the B standards were 2:45. And I was like, well, I have a couple years to work towards 2:45, and then I'll go to trials and I'll just get to run there. That's awesome. I'll just be at trials. And the next race, I ran the A standards. I ran a 2:36. And I was like, whoa, I had started working with my coach. And so had actual specific training and not an online training plan, and all these pieces. And so I've kind of just started to watch what happens when I take the ceiling off of myself. So now where I'm at, now I feel like I'm not afraid to say what my goals are, because I think the more I can put them out there, the more these amazing, beautiful moments come in that just start to make them happen and help me along the way. So, I mean, honestly, like I want to be back at trials and want to make the team in 2024, and like, that's a ways and it's a stretch, but it's one of those, like, pick the big ones, pick like those big things. So that for sure on road. And now on this crazy trail journey, I'm like, oh my goodness. So the reason I've been doing all these crazy trail adventures is I've discovered that there is this thing called the World Mountain Championships, which that exists. So I found out about these last year, and then I heard that they're taking resumes this year. And so I was like, well, I want that. I want to be on the World Mountain Championship team and represent USA. My ultimate goal is to represent Team USA in whatever capacity that looks like. And so that's my next goal is submitting my resume for the US team for the World Mountain Champs. Who knows if they even happen, but that's the goal. That's my next piece. And then from there, I have no idea. It's just kind of like discovering what even exists, especially in the trail world. There's somebody asked me the other day, kind of the same thing, like, what's next? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know what is like even out there. But I want to just do it all. Like, I want to have all the experiences, and I want to just be on this ride and just, again, surrender to the joy of it and just see what happens and just let myself go for it. Because I never, even at last year, I never would have thought, if you would have told me last summer that I would be running and winning Pikes Peak, I would have laughed so hard, because that I was absolutely not running for a marathon on a mountain. Absolutely not, And so I'm just also trusting that these pieces are going to come in that I'm going to look at and be like, there's no way. Like, I've stopped saying that, because every time I do, it happens. Like, there's no way I'm going to be a trail runner. So I'm also taking the ceiling off of 50K is probably in my future. Let's be honest. Like, yeah, let's get down this ultra route. Who knows? So I don't know. So it's just fun. Like, I'm just kind of letting it all happen, I suppose.
At the risk of oversimplifying this entire conversation, you truly have mastered how to make running dynamic and alive
and fun.
Thanks. That means a lot, because I feel like that's where I'm really putting my work and my effort, and it's fun that it's coming across and that hopefully people can get something from it. I've got a whole cornucopia of ideas here, and I'm hoping that people are like, that all of it sounds weird except this one piece. Maybe I'll try that. So that's, hopefully my goal and my mission for people is I honestly, I can't say it enough how much I love running. And I just want other people to experience the same love for it that I do. And however they get there and however it looks for them, that's my whole goal with it. And yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah. The myriad ways to love and enjoy running. It's great.
Thanks.
I'm just so excited that we got you on today. We're looking forward to continuing to update our audience on what you're doing, Brittany, in both the world of running, but also some of those creative ideas that you threw out there. We might mention those a time or two on the podcast as well.
Awesome. Well, truly, you guys, it means so much. And it's just really, I love everything that you guys put out. And, speaking of the joy piece, you are really pumping that out, and I'm soaking that in. So it's this, nice, whatever this wave thing is happening, of everything that all of us are putting into the running world. So I'm grateful to get to chat to you guys again, and just people are interested in listening to this bonkers life that I've got going on. It's just fun. And it's just cool that we're still creating all of this, even in this really hard time that we're all in right now, and that we, can find these little moments.
Well, thank you so much, Brittany.
So certainly a really compelling conversation about the many different aspects of how we can enjoy running. It's not just about the run itself. And I think you heard me say it in the conversation with Brittany. I think that it's profound that we don't have to look at running as always a grind. It doesn't have to be serious all the time and a heavy and weighty thing. At times it certainly is. And I think it's appropriate to have ourselves mentally braced for those heavy aspects of running. When you're out on a long run and you're just really tired. and when you're going through the race and not feeling up for it. We need to be ready for those moments. But we also need to just enjoy these times and these experiences. And so that conversation gave us more ways to do that. I loved it.
And that's being ready for it. So when those times come, do I have weapons in my mental toolbox? Do I have things that I can pull out to change my attitude into one that is full of joy and opportunity? And I think that is really a major point for me. And we've mentioned before being ready for those long distance races, that we need to be prepared to have things to think about during the run so that our thoughts don't control us. We control our thoughts. And during my run today, actually, I took Brittany's practices and I did them. So I was thinking about, as I was going along, I was picking up my own pennies in a way, trying to find things that brought me joy. I saw a squirrel that laid face down onto a trail, like
and
spread
got run
out.
over by a pickup truck.
No, I saved it.
Splattered across the trail.
Shoot it across. But that brought me a lot of joy. I saw this little girl with a side pony, and I was like, that is so cute. It brought me back. I thought about the days when I had a side pony.
You could do that again if you want.
My hair is so long, my head might tilt over. I might need a Cairo just because my hair is so long right now. But yeah, these ideas, I'm picking up these pennies that are bringing me joy, which are these things in nature. So whatever your thing is, whatever brings you joy, maybe you're looking for a certain kind of tree or part of nature, or maybe you're waving to people along the trail. Whatever brings you joy, be intentional about it to change your attitude or to train yourself to think joyfully on the run.
Tomorrow, I'm going to think about running against Andy with her side pony weighing her down on a lopsided gate.
See, use your creativity, your imagination, like Brittany.
I'm going to beat you, by the way, in my imagination. I'm going to outkick you at the end of a race.
I don't think that needs to be in your imagination. That actually happens every time. If you enjoyed this episode with Brittany, please rate and review and head on over to AtoZrunning.com/episode 48 for more information about Brittany and also our show notes.